On March 31st, 1989, the PC Engine received two shoot-'em-ups. One was the port of an arcade game by a developer who was one of the true masters of the genre, and they ported their arcade game to the PC Engine themselves. The other shoot-'em-up was Deep Blue, and Deep Blue is a game that's a strong contender for the worst game on the PC Engine. It's a pack-in video original, and they haven't got any better since their previous game, F1 Pilot. The Japanese version of Deep Blue has a subtitle, Taitei Shinwa, or Undersea Myth, which of course hints at the plot of the game, which is, actually the plot doesn't exist. And not in the haha 8-bit games didn't have story kind of way. I mean, the story in the manual is, you're underwater, there's gods, and now the story will unfold. Except it doesn't, because there's no story elements in the game, not even an ending. The game just loops after stage 4, and gives enemies 50% more health. Here's what is happening. You're playing as a fish-shaped submarine, and you shoot a bunch of fish. I also need to mention something right up front. Almost all of my footage of this game is from Stage 1. Or Stage A as they call it, because they're trying to make you think this is Darius. And that's because Deep Blue is absurdly difficult. It was only after 45 minutes of play that I finally did a run that reached Stage 2. And that's because I started poking around websites for gameplay tips. Turns out the manual doesn't explain the most important mechanic in the game. But before I get to that, you need a bit more information about how Deep Blue works. Kind of works. Works in a way that vaguely resembles a game. Both buttons 1 and 2 do the same thing. Fire your ship's gun. A lot of fish come at you all at once. Deep Blue really likes to send entire swarms of things after you. Now their movement patterns are highly erratic. Even when you know the generalities of how they behave, there's usually still some random walk element involved, which has them dart back and forth. You only have one life, but you can take a lot of damage before you explode. There's no health bar. Your condition is indicated by the color of the windows on your ship. Blue is the strongest, then green, yellow, and red, with a phase in between each where they blink. But that also doesn't mean that there's 8 hit points. Deep Blue seems to operate on a system where your ship has over 100 hit points. I guess would be 255. And then different collisions take off different amount. So getting rammed by these little shrimp does barely anything, while a big fish can knock you down a color in one shot, and touching one of the bosses will destroy you instantly. The sunfish act as the power-up carriers. You shoot them down and a bubble will be there with an icon. There are 3 types of weapons. A speed up, which you'll need because your default speed is too slow to avoid most things, and an icon that will restore you to full health. There are 3 different weapons that you can get in Deep Blue. The default one is just tiny shots that go right in front of you. Small, weak bullets that you'll probably want to turn on rapid fire in order to be effective. The purple wave will extend as you hold down the fire button. So if you hold it down for a long time, you'll have a pretty long shot. I found this to be the most effective weapon because you can move while shooting it, and that lets you cover a small extra amount of the screen. The final weapon is the blue screw shot, which is extra powerful, but you can only fire a small amount of them, and it travels in a straight shot in front of you. Now, something that you might have noticed about all 3 of these weapons is that they all travel in the exact same path. Just one shot straight ahead. In shoot-'em-ups that feature swarming enemies like Deep Blue, you need weapons that cover a wider area. Otherwise, you can't do anything when the enemies get above you, below you, or behind you, and just park there. Which is something that happens a lot with these enemy patterns in Deep Blue. If something isn't straight ahead of you, you can't do anything about it. Now, it is possible to power up your weapon. Having a second icon for your weapon makes it a little bit larger, and you can power it up twice like this. However, getting hit makes you lose a level of your power-ups, and that includes your speed. Because you're constantly in a swarm of things when you're playing Deep Blue, and you don't have any way to cover any area except straight in front of you, it's very difficult to hold on to a power-up for any length of time. And then there's the vital game mechanic they don't tell you about. So, with all of the information you had before, you're probably going to find it very difficult to get past the midpoint of the first stage. At the midpoints of stages, the music changes, and then there's suddenly a different enormous swarm that goes after you, usually from the top or bottom of the screen. It's absurdly hard to get past this. Well, unless you use the health regeneration. You see, when you're not shooting, your health is constantly regenerating. It'll take it about 20 seconds of not shooting to go all the way from red to blue, but it's definitely doable. It's not like you were shooting down a huge number of fish anyways. So if you focus more on dodging than shooting, you have a lot better chance of getting through the stages. Of course, a better chance still isn't a great chance. And in the Japanese version, which I'm playing here, you can't even continue. That was added for the US version. In Japan, Deep Blue has the reputation of being among the worst PC Engine games. One commentator I saw described it as traumatizing. And yet, this is an amazing stinker of a game. It's a shooter that punishes you for shooting. And it doesn't give you the tools to be effective at shooting things down. Playing Deep Blue is a miserable experience. Maybe the best thing about it is that the game is so short at only 4 stages. I don't think any players could take another stage past that.